What's happening around you? Hear about state events, businesses, and from the people behind them on the Megacast, an hour-long TV, radio, and streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on MyMyTV.com. Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28, 2023. Go to MichiganWeek.org for details. Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. To ring in the new year, the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce welcomes the 2023 Board of Directors. Don't miss this opportunity to network with and congratulate the movers and shakers of our community, show your appreciation, and more. With the whole event officiated by Judge Diane DeAugustini. Register at westbloomfieldchamber.com. Entry is $20 for non-members and $10 for members. We'll see you January 13th.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream lives on with United We Walk, an event that celebrates Dr. King Jr.'s birthday by embracing unity, diversity, and acceptance. Volunteer, participate, or donate to bolster your community and engage with your fellow citizens. For more information, scan the QR code on screen or go to unitedwewalk.org. Show your support Sunday, January 15th, 2023, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. What's happening around you? Hear about state events, businesses, and from the people behind them on the Megacast, an hour-long TV, radio, and streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on MyMyTV.com. Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today, we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines on our CivicCenterTV.com local news page. Our top story today comes from Mike Wilkinson at Bridge, Michigan, and their coronavirus tracker. On Tuesday, the state reported 7,390 cases and 54 confirmed COVID-related deaths over the past week, both of which have trended downward from the week before, following 5 weeks of rising infections statewide. Hospitalization numbers, however, are a bit of a mystery at this time, with metrics backed up due to the holiday, marking the last report or last update on the report being December 28th, where 1,397 people were hospitalized due to COVID-19, the most in Michigan since February of 2022. Updated hospitalization numbers are expected to be released, however, sometime today. Also making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Frank Witzel at the Detroit Free Press. Maybe not the kind of news you want to hear kicking off the new year as your trip to the gas station this week. Maybe a little bit pricier. AAA is reporting that the state's average price per gallon of gasoline has risen to $3.20 per gallon. Despite the 21-cent per gallon jump, prices are still lower at this time than they were a month ago, but up, of course, from this time in 2022. The culprits, a rise in crude oil prices, as well as the holiday season rush for gasoline as people were traveling across the state and across the country to visit their family, both of which rose the demand for gasoline and crude and other crude oil products, as well as lowering the supply. Simple economics come into factor there. Michigan's average per gallon price remains 2 cents lower than the national average, currently sitting at $3.22 per gallon. The most expensive gas prices on average across the state: Metro Detroit and Saginaw at $3.21 per gallon, Ann Arbor at $3.20 per gallon. The least expensive gas prices in Michigan, if you're in the Oakland County area where we originate a broadcast, you'll have to do a little bit of traveling to get access to those. Benton Harbor at $3.15 per gallon on average. Jackson, a little bit higher at $3.17, and then a slight increase from there in Traverse City, where the average gas price is currently at $3.18 per gallon. Also a factor in the rising prices are Michigan's gas tax, which has risen a total of 1.4 cents per gallon from last year. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Kim Kozlowski at the Detroit News. According to substance use research led by the University of Michigan and other research organizations across the U.S., nicotine vaping has become the most common method of substance use among young people. Over the past 4 years, nicotine vaping has surpassed both alcohol and cannabis consumption amongst 8th grade aged kids. In 2021, both alcohol and vaping were tied in the ranks amongst 10th grade aged students, with vaping surpassing alcohol in 2022 amongst kids in this same age group. According to one of the lead researchers, since the study began to be conducted in 1975, this is the first time that nicotine vaping has led other forms of substance use, both amongst 8th grade and 10th grade aged kids that this particular study covers. Vaping first became a measured metric amongst these age groups in 2017. There's been quite a lot of controversy in recent years over vaping in Michigan, with former state Chief Medical Executive Dr. Jonae Caldoun previously declaring a public health emergency in 2019 over vaping and issuing a statewide ban of sales of flavored vape products due to their alleged appeal to children. A court of claims judge issued a preliminary injunction to stop this banishment, claiming that there was, quote, no genuine emergency, in close quote, and that a business called A Clean Cigarette would suffer, quote, a unique loss to its business and to its branding, end closed quote, if emergency rules were enforced, and that an Upper Peninsula vape shop would suffer, quote unquote, irreparable harm after the owner said he would lose his entire business from this particular ban. The Monitoring the Future study is funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. All those headlines today making news on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. You click on the headline or you click on the thumbnail picture just off below that to the slight left of the page, and it will take you to this full article, each of these full articles, and all of our articles that we post from across different news organizations and link to, my apology, from other news organizations across the state of Michigan each and every day throughout the week. So you can read more details. And of course, there's supporting materials that are often linked in these full articles that we're summarizing here at the beginning of our programs. And of course, while you're there, while you're clicking through these articles and reading more details or just getting what we post of the articles on our website, we highly encourage you, if you have the means to do so, to subscribe to these publications and support journalism on your local level. We have a great show ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll have our first mental health talk of 2023 with Carrie Krawick from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, who joins us each and every week. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. To ring in the new year, the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce welcomes the 2023 Board of Directors. Don't miss this opportunity to network with and congratulate the movers and shakers of our community, show your appreciation, and more. With the whole event officiated by Judge Diane DeAugustini. Register at westbloomfieldchamber.com. Entry is $20 for non-members and $10 for members. We'll see you January 13th.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find links to all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes state, including our co-flagship My Michigan TV, and find all of our full programs and each individual interview from every one of our shows dating back to March of 2020 on demand as well. The website again, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the program, as she does each and every week, usually on a Thursday, this time around on a Wednesday, to talk about a variety of different mental health subjects that we are focusing on at certain times of the year or just across the board, is Carrie Krawick, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. It's beginning of a new year, and with that, a lot of people begin the year focusing on new goals or New Year's resolutions, as many will make. But it's common that those new goals or resolutions can fall through quite quickly. In fact, there's a phenomenon known as Quitter's Day, which is usually marked as the second Friday in the month of January, where it's common for a lot of these particularly New Year's resolutions to go to the wayside, to fall through, and frankly, to be given up on. So first off, what are some of the differences between setting a long-term goal necessarily versus a New Year's resolution, and how do we disseminate between how do we decipher between which ones are effective and which ones maybe aren't effective?
Sure. Well, the research really supports that people who set like vague, broad goals are most likely to fail them. And often when we hear people's resolutions, they sound pretty much the same every year: lose weight, save money. It's these very big goals that are hard to achieve. Something to really do to make it more adaptive would be to take those big goals and then really break down what are the steps that go into achieving it, and picking maybe one or two of those, one to focus on each month. So if your big goal is lose weight, you may just start with walk daily as a goal, and that would be much more likely to be achieved for a number of reasons. One, you could track it. You could catch yourself every day. Losing weight, something like that, might not be the same every day. Things go up and down in our body, whatever happens. And so you may have these ebbs and flows. But if it was something really behavioral that you could do, you could really support and encourage yourself along the way and measure your success that way, and you adopting a healthy behavior instead of reaching a big goal, which you're not likely to do in the first 2 weeks of the year.
So then why do we do this? Why do we have a tendency to begin the new year making these New Year's resolutions, setting these big goals that you're not going to accomplish in a couple of weeks? You're not going to accomplish maybe even in that entire calendar year. What is it about just the way that us humans are wired that makes us, clean the slate at the beginning of the year? And while doing that and, taking the weight off our shoulders from the year before and starting anew as we go into a new year, put all that pressure on ourselves that's frankly unrealistic, instead of maybe taking a more measured approach to it, like you said, and setting those smaller goals.
I think part of it is so funny that you mentioned this, because one of the things you're really talking about is social norms. Now, I don't know the history of resolutions or, where they are in terms of certain cultures or religions where it comes to maybe doing something like this. I don't know the origins of resolutions, but what you touch on is that there is a social norm about resolutions. So around this time of year, we're talking about it, we're hearing about it, we're seeing commercials about it. So it's sort of all around us that this is sort of a thing we do, yet we haven't really gotten very educated on how to do it. And it's ironic you mentioned this, because there is just some recent research about this, that one way to achieve a resolution, of course, is good old fashioned willpower. If you say you're not going to do something, you want to quit smoking, you're just going to quit cold turkey, and that's your plan, is not very effective compared to having a norm about it. So being a part of a community, being connected with other people, having some shared set of rules, like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we're doing, is actually more likely to achieve success. So they took college professors in a classroom, and they told their class, they don't want students to be using their cell phones while the lecture is happening. So one classroom, they said, make your own plan for how you're going to take care of your screen behavior, and then attend this class. And in the other class, they said, no screens allowed, we're not doing that here. And in that class, there was less temptation, there was more connection, there was more sort of agreement among everybody about what they were doing and how, instead of leaving everybody to their own devices, quite literally devices, just didn't work at all.
So as people are setting these goals, Carrie, and they're putting these resolutions, so to speak, together, and following your suggestions and suggestions of other professionals and others that are used to working with people through achieving some of their goals, what should they be doing, and what should they be looking for as they're setting those smaller goals to set themselves up for achieving incrementally toward those macro goals, of course, with it being a different situation for each person and the way that they behave in their daily lives?
So I think one thing too is, you don't have to start at the start of the year, and at any point you want to start, there's a time, but there is, like you said, there's sort of the pre-planning phase of starting a goal. So setting yourself up for success is going to look like, right, what things do you need in place? We've already told you a few things today: making small behavioral goals, being able to measure and track them daily, connecting with a group of other like-minded people or like behaviored people, taking the stuff that's tempting out of your home or around your space, so it's like, right, if you're going to give up drinking for January, you're probably going to have to cancel your happy hour plans. Trying to go and put yourself in that environment is not going to really be successful. You're gonna have to just be really mindful about what you're doing and think about that in advance. What will I need in terms of people, places, things to support the goal that I've set? Take your big goal, come up with some smaller goals. What are the tiny steps to achieve it? Pick one or two to start. Follow yourself over the next couple of weeks and then consider adding another step. Like we said before with the lose weight, start with walking daily. If you're successful through this month, then add something else, like removing a certain dietary item or something. Consider once you get successful, adding a micro resolution for each month as opposed to one big vague resolution for the year.
Yeah, and so often a lot of these goals or these New Year's resolutions do surround our health or our bodies or superficial reasons, and people want to go and be more active. They want to go to the gym. And I heard recently on some clip I had seen somewhere on social media, and it was really interesting piece of advice that instead of making the goal that I'm going to work out 5 times a week, make the goal that I'm simply going to go to the facility, to the gym, or wherever you were going, to the park, going outside, or wherever you're going to be going for your fitness regime 5 times a week. Because if you're there, well, what else am I going to do? I might as well, walk or walk on the treadmill or bike, or lift some weights for a little bit and test things out, figure out what I'm going to do, and you'll gradually get more comfortable. And it's so interesting to take that angle, because we do see so often that in that second week, that second Friday, which is known as quote unquote Quitter's Day, that these goals that are often, as we have talked about ad nauseum today, so far-fetched and so big and so lofty and so pressure-packed, fall apart. What is it about that particular timeline, that second week, 2-3 weeks into the year, or 2-3 weeks after, in this case, you're setting these goals and they're maybe not working out exactly how you see that leads us to throw them away altogether instead of maybe starting over or refocusing them?
Sure. I love this idea of, troubleshooting. So when I talk about parenting or other different topics, we talk about behavior change, right? When the steps are too big to achieve and then there's failure, we often give up. Really, that's an opportunity to just make the steps smaller, and to take little tinier steps to that next thing. So you're absolutely right. Like, for one person, the motivation to go to the gym may not be the issue, and that step is very easy breezy for them. But for another person, making that a part of their routine is the first step. And if they can do that part, then they add the next teeniest step, so it's like, what needs to happen in the schedule, what needs to happen in the day, it might need to be troubleshot. So yeah, I think about 2 weeks, what happens is it is a time where our goals have failed because we didn't plan or tweak them as we needed to. It's really an opportunity to make those tweaks. Okay, what was the next smallest objective I could do under the one I tried, because the one I tried was too big and I missed it? Let's try the next smaller one and get some traction there before we add the next layer to our goal.
We're joined by Carrie Krawick on today's edition of the Megacast, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. You can find more information and get in contact with the Birmingham Maple Clinic at birminghammaple.com, or by calling them 248-646-6659, 248-646-6659 for more information. And Carrie, how important is it, or how big of a factor can it play in achieving some of these goals, whether it be step by step or those macro goals that you're setting at the beginning of the year or any time, to involve other people in those steps that you're taking, to be asking for help, or just someone that may occasionally check in on you on your goals and you check in on them for theirs? How important can that aspect of help be in getting you from A to Z on these goals?
So important. The word we use for that is called accountability. But when we've revealed our goals, we've made ourselves really vulnerable. We've opened someone up into something. There's intimacy there, and that connection is so important. We also feel like we perhaps we don't want to feel guilt because that guilt can contribute to shame and maybe cause some negative feelings associated with our goals. But when we feel connected and supported, our stress actually goes down. Someone else may be able to offer some problem solving skills. This thing you tried isn't working. We've tried the same goal every year, save money for however many years, and that one's not working. Let's try something different. Let's look at it. Sometimes a helpful set of eyes can say, hey, look, I think maybe this might be the goal to try for you, and here's how you can do it, and here's how I can be helpful to you. Therapists are certainly exceptionally helpful that way too, to come up with behavior goals, to offer weekly and routinely checking in, to really be that supportive voice if you don't feel like you have someone else who you can trust with that information. And certainly addressing any of the underlying causes if we have sort of addictive behavior or avoidant behavior or things that are perhaps interfering with our ability to connect with our goals and be successful with our goals. A therapist would really be helpful to reveal those things and work through them and past them.
You can get in contact with the professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic and involve a therapist maybe in helping you along the way to your goals this year at the Birmingham Maple Clinic's website, birminghammaple.com, or send them an email, info@birminghammaple.com. Call them 248-646-6659 for more information. Carrie, before we let you go, anything else that you believe would be helpful for our audience to consider as they're thinking about their goals, as they're working towards some of their New Year's resolutions for 2023 that we maybe haven't discussed yet today?
I sort of mentioned it before, but the research really says that people who set these broad goals are more likely to become depressed as a result of not reaching them. And people who are depressed are more likely to set these broad goals. So really, the difference that makes the difference is thinking, like we said, moving from the macro goal, take the macro goal, but you can do it different ways. Either come up with a small daily goal. I can say with certainty, the only New Year's resolution I've ever been successful with was when I decided to start taking the stairs at my workplace. And just taking the stairs daily didn't necessarily yield, weight loss or overall health, but it's certainly a healthy behavior that I said, hey, I'm going to do this every day. And now I do. So that small is what we're talking about to be successful, and to prevent the incidence of, other contributing mental illnesses as a result. You can really insulate yourself from becoming further depressed by just thinking very small, daily, and actionable steps.
Carrie, we appreciate you joining us and giving us some insight into ways that we can better approach maybe our New Year's resolutions or goals that we set throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. birminghammaple.com for more information, or call them 248-646-6659 to get in contact with Carrie and the other professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, a story of a local grandfather who worked to keep his family together and galvanize the local community as well. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream lives on with United We Walk, an event that celebrates Dr. King Jr.'s birthday by embracing unity, diversity, and acceptance. Volunteer, participate, or donate to bolster your community and engage with your fellow citizens. For more information, scan the QR code on screen or go to unitedwewalk.org. Show your support Sunday, January 15th, 2023, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. What's happening around you? Hear about state events, businesses, and from the people behind them on the Megacast, an hour-long TV, radio, and streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on mymytv.com. Hey Laker fans, do you know a friend or neighbor that volunteers in Greater West Bloomfield? We would love to help you recognize them at the 51st Annual Michigan Week Awards. Countless members of the communities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield give their time and talent daily without regard for recognition. You can help recognize these individuals and organizations at our awards breakfast next year on May 12th, 2023. Nominate your neighbor or organization starting January 28th, 2023. Go to michiganweek.org for details.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more info on all of our partnering stations across the state, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our programs on demand as well. Over 300 charities and nonprofits are listed on the Share Detroit website. And while we unfortunately weren't able to have Share Detroit on with us yesterday due to some technical issues on one of their charities' side, we are able to be joined by one today as Thomas Wenzel joins us, the founder of Jamie's Kids. Thomas, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on. First off, for those that may not be familiar with your organization, tell us about a little bit of the history as well as the mission of Jamie's Kids.
Okay, well, first of all, Jamie is my daughter who passed away 5 years ago, shortly after giving birth to her fifth child. And Jamie was an unwed single parent. And after a 4.5-year battle with the juvenile court system, we finally got the father's parental rights terminated, and we adopted all 5 children. We've had them for 5 years, and the ages are Nina's 5 now. She was the baby at that time, and our little boy Caden is 7, and Jenna is 9, and Paige is 11, and our oldest Kara, she's 14. And my wife and I had just retired when our daughter Jamie passed away. And we live in a 2-bedroom house. And so to accommodate the children, we're in the midst of a addition project on our house, a second floor addition, adding two bathrooms and 4 bedrooms. And some members of our church founded a nonprofit for us called Jamie's Kids, which helped us get donations and volunteers for our project so far. And we do things with veterans, senior citizens, youth sports organizations, and environmental issues. We sponsor and put on a creek cleanup and rain garden maintenance every year, along with helping senior citizens with summer chores and winter chores and building handicap ramps for veterans and a lot of stuff that we do for the neighborhood and their community.
So Thomas, for those that are watching on our TV outlets, on our streaming outlets, watching even on demand, possibly in the future at civiccentertv.com/megacast, they look over your shoulder there in your shop, and they'll see the Falcon logo from Divine Child. And I understand that the Divine Child community has offered quite a lot of support to you as well as to the family. Can you tell us about that support and how critical that's been on putting this family back together as it currently stands, but also the rest of Jamie's Kids and its mission?
Right, sure. Yeah, they've been really helpful. One of the main things is they really helped us out with tuition support. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to afford going to Divine Child, which is a great school. The faculty and the staff are tremendous. I'm a crossing guard there every morning and a lunch monitor every day at lunch. And but their financial support has been tremendous, and their prayers and their volunteering. We have volunteers from Divine Child coming over to help us with our project, weekly. And without them, we couldn't be to where we're at right now. Fantastic. The Divine Child community is a fantastic place to be, and we love being there. It's unbelievable.
So speak to also some of the struggles that you went through along this journey to put this family together as it currently is after what happened with Jamie, and then to overcome that and eventually get to a point where you're helping other people in various ways in the community.
Well, before Jamie passed away, my wife and I, we were very active in the community with all those things I mentioned. And when Jamie passed away, obviously losing a daughter, tremendous burden to a family. And when the grandparents have to raise the kids, that's another burden. And obviously the obvious one's financial. We're on a $40,000 a year fixed income, and without the help of our church, our family, and our community, we couldn't do it. Like there's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It couldn't be more true in our situation. We've had the kids in foster care. We thought right away we'd just get the kids, right 5 years ago, and that's not the case. We had to go through a lot to get to where we are now, and to be able to finally adopt them. That was our biggest hurdle, because at any day we knew that these kids could be taken away from us, even though we were the grandparents. We did not have custody of the children. We were strictly foster care parents. And once we overcame that, once we finally adopted them, that took so much of a weight off our shoulders and allowed us to get back to what we naturally do, is volunteering for the community and help people out. We get a lot of help, financially. We're back into helping the community out, and our church. One of the biggest hurdles, and it's not a terrible thing, is technology. Because 5 years ago, when I retired, 6 years ago, technology, you could take it or leave it, maybe Facebook or something once in a while. But these kids in school, man, you got to know your stuff. I asked a couple of years ago, I asked one of the teachers if they could put a sticky note in the folder and tell me what I need to do with the kids. They said, "Oh, no, Tom, you go home and go on Google Classroom and build you." No, I don't have time for that. Just leave me a sticky note. They said, "No, we don't do sticky notes anymore." So, but we've learned technology is a big hurdle. We're still learning a lot about it. It's pretty handy. Once you get the hang of it, I'll tell you, it's very helpful.
Yeah, we've seen, especially over the last several years, given the crises we've gone through as communities here in Michigan and across the world during the pandemic, just how useful technology can be to keeping communities together and keeping families together as well. We're joined by Thomas Wenzel. He is the founder of Jamie's Kids, with us on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find them in a couple of different places. You go on to Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org. Go to their Find a Nonprofit section and search Jamie's Kids, JAIME''S Kids, and you'll find more information on their nonprofit organization. You can also find more info on 324 other charities and nonprofits across the Metro Detroit area. You can find out more about Jamie's Kids by going to their website, jamies5kids.com. That's JAIMES, the number 5, kids.com, to learn more information. As you talk about the housing project to get your family into a more adequate space for these 5 kids and your family, and it's making great progress. According to your website, you're about 80% along in that. Just about how far away, of course 20%, but define that 20% and just how close you are to being able to provide this space for this reunited family. It's such a great story and has done so much to help so many people in our local area.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been an adventure. It's the project's been going on for over 2.5 years, and it's basically self-funded with donations. We haven't taken out any loans or anything like that, so we don't owe anybody money. And I do a lot of the work myself and my family and friends, and we've had volunteers from the electricians union, the carpenters union, the plumbers union, sheet metal workers union, bricklayers union. We've had so many people that have heard our story, and they get here and they say, well, we heard stories before, but once we got here and talked to you guys and heard about your story, this is really special. We want to be part of it. And we have the exterior about 99% done, and the interior, we got the drywall put up. We're starting the mudding on the drywall, and I'm doing a lot of that. I retired as a union plasterer and drywall finisher, so I've got a little handle on that. My thing fell. My eagle, my falcon. But anyway, we're right now. We're at a part right now where we've had some family and friends that are helping us out. We've got your organization. But I'll tell you, the more I learn about it, the more impressed I am about Share Detroit. I look at it every day, and what a great job that they do. And it's like, no, it's so helpful. And I just hope that I can, become a little part of this and this big cog in this big machine. But we are there now. We've had some friends that hooked us up with a registry, and everything can be found on jamies5kids.com. We're going to be ready for paint hopefully in a couple weeks, and we really didn't anticipate it, but we found out that a major cost is coming up in all your finished products. Your bathtubs and sinks and toilets and flooring and window treatment and doors, and so we're at that point right now, and we're looking halfway decent. We're hopefully by Easter we're going to be done with the project. And I have a little analogy I use. Is our project is like a big 8-cylinder engine in a 100-gallon tank of gas. And 2.5 years ago, this thing was a full tank of gas, and this engine was roaring. And then, after a couple of months, we got down to 50 gallons, and it was roaring, going good. And then 25 starts slowing down, and 10 gallons, and 5 gallons starts sputtering a little bit. And then someone comes along, and they dump 10 gallons of gas in there, and the engine starts going again. And so we look forward to everyone coming over. It's a joy to have people over. It's such a blessing that, our community, our church, and our family and friends have come through for us. It's truly amazing. People come here, they say, wow, I thought it was a nice thing, but once they get here and they meet the children, meet our family and friends there, they say, well, I want to come back and help some more. It's really.
So Thomas, you've talked about a little bit earlier, touched on how some of the people in the community, some of the contractors that have come in and have either volunteered their time or even donated their time to and their expertise to help with these housing projects. They said they've heard about it, but then going in and meeting you, meeting the family and speaking to them, it's really changed their whole perspective on this situation. To speak to how this story and then these efforts have grown over the years since you began this project and work to do what you're doing right now to help support this family.
Yeah, this project, it's a needed project. It's something that we need, but it brings so many people together. It brought, my little community around these several blocks together. It brought our whole city together. The building trades industry, it brought them together. It's just been such a nice thing. It's very heartwarming. And when you hear about our story, how these children were left, orphans, and the struggle we had to get final custody, and then the adoption process, and the people that have helped us all along the way, it's just so overwhelming. And the blessings we've had have been tremendous. I mean, I could write a book about all the blessings that we've had, me and my family and our community, things that have happened to us. It's so amazing. And it's something that it brings a smile on my face. And people come over here, and we tell them, me and my wife and the kids, thank you for coming, thank you. And they say, no, thanks for having us. We're honored to be a part of this project. And that's kind of cool. That brings kind of a little tear to our eye.
Well, Thomas, we appreciate you joining us and telling us more about Jamie's Kids. And of course, you can find more information on Jamie's Kids at their website, jamies5kids.org, or by going to sharedetroit.org as well. Sharedetroit.org would be the place to go to find information on Jamie's Kids and over 300 other charities and nonprofits. And again, I messed up that website. That's jamies5kids.com. JAIMES, the number 5kids.com for more information, and sharedetroit.org as well. We'll take a break on the Megacast. Coming up next, Dave Dulio from Oakland University will join us to talk about all of the things that are happening in the world of politics as we kick off 2023. And boy, are we already in quite a whirlwind in just the first week of the new calendar year. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. To ring in the new year, the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce welcomes the 2023 Board of Directors. Don't miss this opportunity to network with and congratulate the movers and shakers of our community, show your appreciation, and more. With the whole event officiated by Judge Diane DeAugustini. Register at westbloomfieldchamber.com. Entry is $20 for non-members and $10 for members. We'll see you January 13th.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes state, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and each individual interview segment on demand as well. That website again, civiccentertv.com/megacast. And of course, we invite you to join us Monday through Friday, each and every week, live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. across our network for our live shows. But of course, as we said, civiccentertv.com/megacast if you're unable to join us live each and every day, or stay with us for the entire hour, 5 days per week. Joining us now on the Megacast, as he does each and every week, to talk about how the world of politics in the U.S. and the state of Michigan is affecting you, is Dave Dulio from Oakland University, professor of political science and also the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us.
Happy New Year to you too, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate having you on, and no better time than now to have you on, as we're already off to quite the kickstart to 2023 in Washington, D.C., where the new Senate has arrived and been sworn in. Not the case in the other house, in the other Chamber of Commerce, in the House of Representatives, where after their first day there yesterday, they are yet to name a new Speaker of the House, and what is quite unprecedented over the last century, just the first time in over 100 years that a vote for the Speaker of the House has gone to a second vote. Now we're looking at potentially today a fourth vote on this. So first off, let's just go from how this is impactful on national politics, because there are certain things that the House of Representatives can't do without the Speaker of the House.
Well, and it's a really good point, Tyler. And really, the House can do nothing until it chooses a speaker. The rules mandate that no member elect is sworn in until the Speaker of the House is chosen. So there is no functioning House of Representatives at the moment. The Speaker has to be chosen, and then they will move to swear in all the members, even those who are returning. Like many of our reps here in Michigan, reps, Slotkin, Stevens, etc. They're not members of the House yet. They have not been sworn in for the 118th Congress, and that can't happen. The House can't do any business until the Speaker's chosen.
And it seems that the problem here is between, like we've seen quite repeatedly over the last year or so during the midterm elections, between some of the establishment Republicans and some of the more Trump Republicans that are referring to themselves as the Freedom Caucus at this time, where the Republicans aren't able to get those 218 votes that are needed to put Kevin McCarthy or whomever else they may eventually put into the speakership, given that they have the majority in Congress. And given that these first three votes went quite differently, the first two votes having 19 Republicans not voting for Representative Kevin McCarthy from California, the presumptive nominee for the speakership from the Republican side of the House. First time 19 voted against him. The second time 19 voted against him by way of voting for Jim Jordan, a representative from Ohio, someone who nominated previously in that session Representative McCarthy for the position, and now that's at 20. Finally, they adjourned after that third vote until today, but this could be a big day for Kevin McCarthy, both good and bad, if he's able to galvanize the Republican Party and get himself into that speakership position, or if this goes to another vote and he doesn't have votes or loses even more. This could create quite a lot of chaos to kick off 2023 in the Republican Party and really hamper Congress. So where does McCarthy go from here in terms of what he's got to do to make concessions with those 19, or is this just simply a major power play from the Freedom Caucus to get anybody but McCarthy into that seat?
Well, it sure seems like the latter. The reporting out of Washington in the last week or so is that McCarthy and his leadership team have already made a bunch of concessions to what the Freedom Caucus wants. And it appears that it hasn't done any good, right? I mean, you've got those folks really dug in on their opposition to McCarthy. And you wonder what it takes to break it, or if it's just a flex on McCarthy saying, no, we're not doing it. We're anybody but Kevin, right? Is kind of where we're at. And is there a consensus candidate that emerges? Somebody like Steve Scalise, who might be able to, placate both sides, if you will, or do they look somewhere else? Jim Jordan, you mentioned, very popular among the Freedom Caucus, got 20 votes in the third round of balloting yesterday, but he doesn't want the job. And that wouldn't be the first time that somebody who said that they didn't want the job actually got the job. That's how Paul Ryan became Speaker in the early 2000s.
We're joined by Dave Dulio on today's edition of the Megacast, professor of political science at Oakland University, and also the director of their Center for Civic Engagement. More information can be found from the Center for Civic Engagement on oakland.edu/CCE. And so as we're approaching today and this potential vote, fourth vote for the House speakership at 12 noon, this is critical mass for Kevin McCarthy, because right now he has, or at least up to this point, he's been in position to be the number one person in the Republican Party, at least in the House of Representatives, and one of the highest ranking Republicans in the entire union. And if this is the case where they do make concessions to the Freedom Caucus, the majority of the Republicans are making concessions to the Freedom Caucus and don't put Kevin McCarthy into that position. Now, this is the second time this has happened to him, where he's been at this point to potentially take the speakership and ultimately be snuffed out of it and somebody passing him in line. This might be his last shot at it. So what chance does McCarthy really have to recover from this, given that it's happened before, and given that he has a tendency to make concessions to those in political power? That ultimately is also one of the problems that these 19 originally and now 20 Republicans that did not vote in his favor really have against him.
Yeah, it seems like he's painted himself into a corner, right? And he, what's the way out? He's given concessions, again, by all the reporting that's come out. And so where does he go from here? Those folks aren't changing their mind, it appears, right? I mean, it will be very interesting to see what happens at noon. So in about an hour, right? What transpires? I read just before coming on with you that Republicans are going to try to not have a vote right away and go into a recess. Well, that certainly doesn't bode well for McCarthy. It's one side's going to have to give, and you wonder when other Republicans go to McCarthy and say, "Hey, look, it's not happening, right? You got to step aside." And then, of course, the question, if that happens, the question becomes, what is there to fill that void, right? Who do they put up? As I said, Jordan doesn't want it, and he probably couldn't get the 218 votes that are needed. So we may be at a stalemate again for another day or so until something breaks loose.
And this isn't something that's uncommon in American history. It's simply something that we haven't really seen be a problem over the last 100 years. There's been, as you mentioned, situations in the past where, for example, when Paul Ryan rose to the speakership, where there was some disagreement amongst the Republican Party over who should be in that speakership, and ultimately Ryan, though somewhat reluctantly, rose to that position. But even that didn't go through several voting processes to then get to that point. This is something we haven't seen literally in a century in the U.S., but it's not uncommon in congressional history.
Yeah, and it reflects the divisions that are present in the Republican Party. It's and those divisions exist in the Democratic Party as well. They're just not being, the Democrats just haven't laid out their dirty laundry like the Republicans have. In 2019, in January 2019, when Democrats retook the House, there was opposition to Nancy Pelosi. But what many Democrats did is vote present. They didn't vote for a Pelosi rival. And if you vote present, that lowers the number of votes needed to attain the speakership, right? So there were some folks who said, "I'm not voting for Pelosi." In fact, when our representatives Stevens and Slotkin first campaigned for the House, they pledged not to support Pelosi, and at least one of them voted present in that speaker election. And what that did was, again, they fulfilled their pledge by not supporting Pelosi. But what it didn't do is stand in the way of Pelosi becoming speaker. So maybe that's something that McCarthy can convince people to do, not vote for somebody else, but just vote present. But even then, his Democratic opponent, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has gotten more votes because his party stuck together, and the Democrats have all voted for Jeffries, which have given him 212 votes, more than McCarthy has. So he's still going to have to convince a handful of Republicans who haven't supported him to do so if that strategy is going to work.
They have 2 minutes left, and until we'll have to say goodbye today. And I do want to bring this up because it was something that caught my ear yesterday as I was flipping through the news channels while this was happening, and it was on Fox News that I had heard this. I believe it was Greg Gutfeld who had said, "Well, the reason we haven't heard about this happening in the past is because 100 years ago we didn't have social media, we didn't have the 24-hour news cycle, and people are trying to make a name for themselves." And it brought up a really interesting question in my mind of how much of this is purely just spectacle.
Yeah, I think, in fact, I think a lot of it is, and you look at the folks who are leading the charge against McCarthy, and this is no endorsement of Kevin McCarthy for speaker, but you look at the Matt Gaetzes of the world, right, and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the other ones, and what's their purpose? Is it to actually improve how the chamber works? Or do they have some policy in mind that they want to see moved towards? Or are they just trying to do some grandstanding and help their fundraising for the next time around? Right? I think Jim Jordan, as we've talked about, the person who nominated McCarthy on the second ballot, used to be a McCarthy opponent. Now they've seemed to be more aligned. He gave a really good speech from the Republican perspective on what should happen in this next Congress. And so my point is, there's a difference between Jordan and the other ones, right, who are maybe just trying to stand in the way of McCarthy. I don't know what they want. It's not clear to I don't think anybody what their end game is besides stopping Kevin McCarthy from becoming speaker.
Ironically enough, as much as we heard about, hey, let's all take action on the House floor and have these debates on the House floor, a lot of these discussions happening behind closed doors, as tends to happen in both parties. Dave, thank you as always for joining us.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. You can find more information from Oakland University and get involved with them and how our national politics and local politics are affecting you and your community with the Center for Civic Engagement, oakland.edu. for more information on their events and upcoming discussions all throughout 2023. Already off to a hot start on our national politics side. That will do it for today's edition of the Megacast. You can always join us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast for more information. We thank you for joining us today. Thanks to our guests and our crew. We'll return soon with new episodes.